Good morning.
Let's talk about the three ways to make a compelling offer on your new home. What did you think about this article?
I liked it. It was short, sweet, to the point, it had some really good information.
Cool. Let's jump into the three ways to make a compelling offer. Would you start with number one?
Absolutely. So it starts out talking about, have your offers been accepted? Did you find the dream home and you're not sure if you're going to win the bidding war? So number one talks about escalating your offer. Found the house you loved, you put in your best offer right away. And then with the escalating offer, I'm going to need a little help with this one because I haven't seen this put into use over time. But what they're saying is you are willing to increase your offer by X certain amount over any bid up to a certain amount. So I'm wondering, is this something that is put into play often? Sounds like a good idea.
I have not seen this myself either. If I'm understanding correctly, the suggestion is to put in an offer and to tell the seller we're willing to increase our offer by whatever X percentage, 10%, whatever, to meet or exceed any competing offers that come in. I've never seen that.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
No,
I
but
mean, I think what I've seen more often with the great brokers who I've worked in the past is just to keep communication tight, and just for your buy side broker to be in close contact with the sell side broker, and just to let them know this is not, we have some room to move if necessary. I may not be the best. It kind of depends on the situation. You don't want to give away too much either. You don't want to overpay if you don't have to. So a great buyer's broker will really help you understand what type of communication you need to provide to the sell side to let them know, come back to me before you accept anything, without it being so formal as a technical mechanism as we will go up 10% if we need to. That seems a little, I haven't seen that.
no, in theory, it does sound like a good idea. But like you said, your representation is going to know, how the best way to play that out. But they talk about writing a letter to the seller. You call this a love letter in your book, but it's write a compelling story about the house or a personal story that will really move the seller to say, wow, this family should be in this house. They belong here. I have personally done this. We have written the love letter and it worked.
Yeah, so obviously dollars and cents matters to the sellers, but when it gets down to a certain point where it's between two or three competing offers that are going to likely be in a very narrow, very close to each other in terms of dollar amounts, it usually comes down to, just imagine you're an empty nester, and this is the house that you raised your kids in and maybe even had some grandkids in, and you've been here for 20, 30, 40 years, who knows? And for whatever reason, you're prepared to move to Florida or California or Phoenix, whatever.
Warm.
You're not just trying to wring every last dollar out of this family home. You might want it to go to another, wonderful family and have that and give them the opportunity to enjoy and grow a family as you have. And making that connection with a buyer can be huge, as opposed to, I don't know, somebody who comes in with maybe an offer that's a few $1,000s more, but that intends to, I don't know, build a frat house or something. I don't know. Nothing against frat houses per se.
Right.
Depending on the
Exactly.
situation.
No, but you are attached to your home. Your memories are there. And like you said, if they come in at the same dollars and cents, but one says, I'm starting a family, it's going to be you and your family all over again. It kind of gives them a little bit of a wow factor, and it does work. It might not always work, but in my experience, it did work.
So it doesn't have to be a love letter necessarily. I think that's a great idea. But a funny story, a friend of mine was going to open houses, and because he couldn't get a sitter, he had to bring his young child with him, a very cute young boy. And in one case, it was a very competitive situation for a house he wanted to place an offer on. But the seller sort of fell in love with his son.
Oh, gosh.
And I think it closed the deal for him. So it was totally unintentional, but it worked out. And that's sort of like a baby love letter. I don't know what to call that.
It was a complete unintentional, but like perfect timing. That look at my cute child. Who could resist a cute little boy sitting there that says, "I want to live here"?
Exactly.
That's actually pretty great. On the flip side of this, a little bit is when we were looking for a house, we needed a very certain development, the way that the schools are set up. and nothing was available. So our realtor actually suggested they sent letters out to people who weren't even on the market to sell. So we sent this letter like, this is how much we love this neighborhood. We need to move here and here. If there's any chance you happen to be considering selling, just keep us in mind because we love it. And that is how we came to live in the house we do now. It was not even on the market. They loved our letter and the reasoning, and they had been thinking about selling. So, if, of course, your realtor is going to do what's right for you. But I mean, these letters do work.
That's a great story. That's a really cool example.
Yep. It wasn't even on the market. We walked in and we knew this was the house. They knew we were the family. It was perfect. It just worked.
Hey, one thing before we move on to the third way to make a compelling offer on your new home. I talk about this quite a bit in my book that's available on Amazon, How to Buy Your Perfect First Home. The love letter has a little section in one of the middle chapters. I don't remember exactly where.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's the first thing I thought of when reading this. I said, this is in your book. You talk about this.
Cool.
And then lastly is get a quick inspection. What they are saying here is that you would get an inspection before an offer. Going to need a little help on this one because they are even saying that it could be a risky move. I don't have the experience to say whether this is something that is done, but they're saying is to, before you place the bid, get an inspection. What do you think of that?
I'm going to push back to you for a second because you might know the burbs a little bit better than I do. How much does an inspection cost?
Oh, okay. I'm going back a little bit, but it's definitely $500-ish. And that is like it's been a long time kind of, pulling it out of air, but it's no less than $500. It's not cheap. Okay.
So I think that's what the point of that's what they mean by the riskiness of it. You might be out $500 for nothing, essentially. There's an equivalent. But that being said, if it's a hot market and $500 could get you the deal that you really need or want to get, it might be worth it. So there's that. There's a comparable in the city. Sometimes, so the point is to demonstrate your seriousness to the seller, that you're willing to take steps that typically only happen after you get into contract. And there's comparable methods of doing that in Manhattan where you either run the title report before getting into contract. That's typically done after, and that's a couple $100 as well. You can also begin your due diligence on, if it's a condo or co-op, on the building financials, and again, that'll show that you're taking steps to really just get ahead of everyone else. So there's a couple other things you can do so it doesn't necessarily have to be about an inspection. It can be showing that you're willing to do things or you're prepared to do things that are typically done after a commitment from both sides to show your level of commitment at this point. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. They were also saying another option is an as-is inspection, meaning that when you do get the inspection, you're not going to go back to the sellers and say, we want everything fixed. You're kind of just saying, okay, now we know what it is. We'll take care of it. So there's just, like you said, a whole bunch of different moves to show them you're serious. But that's where your professional is going to come in. They're going to tell you that this is what you should do for this particular house.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they mean by an as-is inspection, but I will say the words as-is, you need to treat those very carefully.
Yeah, yes, you do, because you never know what that inspection is going to turn up, especially in some of the older houses out here in the burbs have been around since the early, 1910, 1920. I mean, they're old houses, so you got to be careful on that inspection.
Okay. Thanks, Janice. So this was from the housingbuzzblog.com. Thank you folks over there for providing this great content for us to chat about. Otherwise, I will talk to you next time, Janice.
We'll see you soon.